Today on Sagittarian Matters, advice on love, liberation, boundaries, and more, with my very special guest, DEAN SPADE. Stay tuned.
Sagittarian Matters, Sagittarian Matters, what's the matter with you? Sagittarian Matters.
DEAN SPADE has been working to build queer and trans liberation based in racial and economic justice for the past 2 decades. He's a professor at the Seattle University School of Law and the author of the books Love in a Fucked Up World, Mutual Aid, Building Solidarity During This Crisis and the Next, and Normal Life, Administrative Violence, Critical Trans Politics, and the Limits of Law. Dean joined me in honor of his new podcast, Love in a Fucked Up World. We will be posting the 3rd episode with guests Tourmaline and Morgan Bassichis in our podcast stream alongside this episode. Now, please enjoy my talk with very special friend to the show, DEAN SPADE. And hey, listeners, if you have a question for me and Dean, we're going to be doing more advice together. So please DM it to Sagittarian Matters on Instagram. Thank you for your support. And if you want to support the podcast financially to help me keep the ship afloat, go to patreon.com/NicoleJGeorges. You can see lots of diary comics, helpful worksheets, anonymous fuzzballs, and exclusive episodes where we talk about things like Love is Blind and just like that. DEAN SPADE, welcome back to Sagittarian Matters.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back.
I'm over the moon to have you back where you belong.
Yeah.
Will you remind us what your astrological sign is?
I'm a Gemini.
Directly across from me on the zodiac. Most
Destined
attracted,
to be friends.
most attracted, most repulsed. Never repulsed.
Yet.
Yeah.
Give me time. I'm going to gross you out.
I don't know if you believe in this. I can't remember if I told you before. I read in some 1980s relationship book called E&P Relationship Strategies that was about how everyone was either extroverted or I can't remember what P is, but it was extroverted, introverted, and how, people are always attracted to their opposite. But it was talking about how the thing that attracts you most to a person in the beginning is what repulses you later.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought
That's
it was
the romance cycle. Yeah.
It's so interesting. I mean, we have an entire book here by you called Love in a Fucked Up World. But I think it's so interesting to have that framework. So when it happens and you're like, this is just how I feel, you're like, well, and you're just this biological creature who's doing the same thing that every other biological creature does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, can I both know that I'm feeling this and maybe it's not information that this person really is awful or whatever,
They're not repulsive.
Yeah.
It's you.
It's just, I'm just in a new phase of my relating to my projection of them. Yeah. So this is especially the cycle with dates. People are like, I feel so freed by how this person is not like me and is violating all the internal norms that I imbibed as a child, and they're loud or they're so sexual or they're so creative or they take time for themselves and I don't, whatever it is. And then later it's when you feel so much more associated with them, you're like, God, that's horrible. No one should do that because I shouldn't. I still got my norm I'm holding and now I'm applying it to you because you got close enough.
A thing I was hearing from Dr. Orna from Couples Therapy the other day was that people's major conflict was just that they're different people and being able to tolerate difference.
Yeah.
Without putting a judgment on it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what people say happens in the cycle. If you have the bonding stage, then you have the conflict stage where I realize that you're separate from me and it's irritating. Why didn't you want to go to dinner where I wanted to go? Why didn't you want to have sex when I wanted to have sex? Why do you, like these friends and I don't like them, whatever. And it feels intolerable. And most couples just get stuck there, just get stuck in that conflict, trying to push you back into the bonding phase, trying to make you be more like me, or trying to appease you. It's kind of this. And if you can get past that, you go to a differentiation phase where you're like, oh, Nicole's just a different person and wants to do different things sometimes. And it's not really about me.
Well, I think this is wrapping into a question I was talking to you about before the show about, Buddhism and how it relates to your book, because I think one of the things that we practice is being able to see things as they are without distortion And I think like a lot of that sort of like bonding attachment stuff is a distortion.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, the underlying theory I'm working on in this book and in all my work is that like, is a very Buddhist idea about liberation. Like liberation is being able to perceive things clearly and respond, so that when I'm engaging with you, I'm not responding to something that happened with my mom 40 years ago. I'm responding to something that's happening with you now. That includes being aware that I'm experiencing feelings related to things that happened with my mom 40 years ago, but like that I know what's happening. I know the reaction is coming up in me that says like Nicole is bad, or Nicole is leaving me, or Nicole is crowding me, or whatever is actually my set of feelings. And I know you're a distinct person, like that I actually can track what's happening, which is what we do when we practice silent meditation. We're just practicing noticing what's happening, not trying to change it, maybe trying to be compassionate with it, and not thinking that my reactions are like a script of the truth. Like this morning I'm cranky and restless. Is the world really this way? Or is it just, I'm having a thing, like that's the kind of liberation that I think, this kind of interpersonal work, like what we're hoping for is just that, like, do I have enough awareness to not act out every reactivity that comes up, but instead to be like, oh, I'm having a really strong feeling, and the feeling's telling me a story about my relationship with Nicole. And, that's what's happening right now is a story.
It feels really radical to do this interpersonal work, to do this work in the context of, liberation as a whole, or like political movements, of really understanding it. I feel like, you hear people all the time. And of course, like in the world of like Instagram therapy, it's like, you have to have compassion for yourself before you have compassion for other people. But I have found the more and more I get into kind of body-based practices of not just hearing something and being like, sure, that sounds right, but actually feeling it in myself, like feeling the judgment for myself and finding a way to forgive and let go, that then I really am able to do that for other people. And then, of course, it's like, well, what, if, okay, you want to build a new culture, you want to build new structures. Well, if you want them to be healthy and sustainable and different than this punitive cycle that we're living in, that needs to start somewhere.
Yeah. It's funny when people say you can't have compassion for others until you have for yourself, or you can't love others until you have it for yourself. I do feel resistance to that, because I think most of us don't really love or have compassion for ourselves. And yet we do often show great kindness and love for one another. And I just feel like there's like a thing in our culture that's like, love yourself now. And it's like, that's actually an incredibly tall order that is not clear what that is. It's like that could, for some people, that's like, I'm going to go to bed on time. For some people, that's like, I'm going to try to eat regularly. For some people, it's a sensation they can sometimes pull up of like care about a feeling that's happening, or a younger self, or there's just so much to that, all of which is incredibly important, and none of which is actually mandatory. And I want everybody to be allowed to find out ways in which they actually are practicing self-hatred, and not be like, oh my God, I'm so behind everyone else, I'm so broken. It's like, we're all actually like stewing in that most of the time, conscious or unconscious. But I do think it's true that like some of our behaviors where we're super rigid with others or judgmental, it's just the internal thing that's happening towards ourselves too. Like we can see, a lot of people can see that in their parents, like, oh, your mom was so fat phobic or something like that. And then it's like, well, she believed that about herself and others, and it's that people told her that. It's like, it's true that like oftentimes our harsh, critical stuff is the same messaging that's happening inside. If we can change any of the messaging inside, or even become aware of it, we can sometimes not like have it come out on others when we're in a period of high pressure, But at the same time, I want to be like, and it's okay that we don't gotta love ourselves. Like it's too much to ask, Well,
I feel like even when I like work just a little bit with the intention of like, may I forgive myself for this thing? Even if I can't do it right now, can I plant the seed for this? And it does give me more of a field of compassion to try and forgive other people for things that they might find unforgivable. Yeah. I'm like, no, it's all forgivable. We all deserve compassion.
And even just doing that, being like, oh, wow, right now I don't think I can quite yet forgive myself, but I plant the seed. That's so compassionate. That's so non-perfectionist. Instead of like, I must fully forgive myself for all things and have total love, right? It's just, it's just like how you do anything is how you do everything. And in our culture, people are even workaholic and perfectionist about healing and like lie about it. Like people love to be like, I'm over it all. I'm fixed. I did that one self-care thing or therapy thing or program, and so it's like, I'm really into the just like, wow, I'm just going to keep finding more evidence of these wounds, more opportunities to practice, and everybody getting to say to themselves like, of course it's like this. Of course it's a lifelong struggle to find compassion and when we're living, as you said, in this like, carceral, punitive context.
Before we talk about your new podcast, are there any other Buddhist themes from your book or ways that it aligns with that you want to bring up?
Such a good question. I mean, a lot of it is about noticing what are the underlying practices that are creating my conditions. Like, I am having a strong feeling. First of all, can I notice I'm having a strong feeling? That's like a lot of liberation there, because then I'm less likely to act it out right away. But also, like, am I stoking this strong feeling? Am I feeling, some kind of jealousy or anxiety or something about someone in my life, and then am I having conversations in which I tell everybody this in a way that's making it more, or get people to collaborate with me that they're bad? Or am I spending my like downtime fantasizing about revenge or fantasizing about, like, am I practicing feeling more of something that I feel tortured by? And do I have any other options? Like, where a lot of it is like, what's my part in the suffering? And like, is there any chance that I could get any relief? Like, all the conditions aren't going to change instantly. So is there any chance I can get some relief, even though people are not going to do the things I want them to do necessarily? And like, outcomes are not going to be what I want. And I think all of that is stuff I've learned in Buddhist practice and other modalities that kind of have that orientation to like, life is just a series of practices. What are you repeating? Are you noticing what you're repeating? And how is it producing aspects of your experience?
Well, also something we were talking about was kind of hope of something you said that I wrote down was hope of safety through control. And I think, I don't know if I would call it safety, but in Buddhism, there is that kind of like, I was talking with Michelle T about Buddhism and the idea that like, you could be okay if you're on a plane and there was turbulence, and even as the plane was going down, you could be centered until the exact moment of your death, because you have that present moment. And you may have fear in that present moment, but you're still alive in that present moment. And so it is kind of like, how can you sit with the fear? How can you work with the fear and without having any control over outside conditions? And I think a lot of your book is, also about trying to let go of control of other people as a way to feel safe. And like, maybe that's not where safety lives.
Yeah. I mean, we live in a carceral, authoritarian society that's like, safety occurs through like war, borders, militaries, cops, right? So like, we've definitely been, owning homes, like lots of like some kind of safety and forever should be achieved by externalizing, control and like having authority figures decide things for you and whatever. And so there's a huge emotional life inside that, right? Like, which that if the romance fantasy itself, like I'll be happy when I have Prince Charming and we have a house and like, and everybody, and I've got a diamond, like everything that stands for forever. Of course, nothing is unchanging. I mean, right? Buddhism tells us that everything is impermanent. And so safety that is about trying to control other people, control other people's sexuality, control who they're friends with, control what kind of jobs they have, like make them a different way than they are, make them behave, like all of that kind of safety, of course, like totally fruitless and causes so much suffering. Because if I put, we'd say in program, like I'm giving you my serenity by being like, what Nicole does later tonight is going to determine how I feel. I'm already not feeling very safe. And I think that it's the opposite of like faith or presence, right? Like, this is how it is now. Like Buddhism is like, this is how equanimity slogan, this is how it is now. So this is how it is. Like, what's it like to not strive and cling, in this way that's about controlling others? I want to say, of course, that like this gets misused in like US liberal white Buddhism. It could almost be like an anti-organizing message. Like, just accept that, there's brutal domination occurring in every area of your life and all the people you love are, getting locked up and deported. I don't mean it that way, but even in our organizing, trying to control other people and creating authoritarian structures in which we try to, it doesn't work, right? We instead have to create structures that are consensual, people like are drawn to because they want to be part of resistance and they feel like seen and heard and connected and belonging, and they feel like they can have important arguments about things. It doesn't, and when people create like top down kind of organizing spaces, it doesn't work. So I feel like on every area of our lives, there's like a chance to be like, where was I convinced that security would come through controlling others or controlling outcomes? And what does it mean for me to try to cultivate some acceptance that there's no knowing exactly what's coming next. There's impermanence, and I want to cultivate qualities of presence and behavior that are aligned with my values. Like I want to act with generosity, even though I don't know for sure that there's going to be enough for me later. Or I want to, be compassionate to others, or support other people's belonging and well-being, even though they might do something I don't like. Like that. That's a really different kind of commitment. That's not transactional, and it's not about like ultimately like trying to like lock people and things down.
Yeah. There's one more thing I wanted to tell you. In the past year or so, I've had like some major life shifts that I've been feeling so sensitive about. And I have felt myself tweaking about confidentiality and about being able to tell people what's going on in my life without them immediately using it as like gossip fodder, as a meal to dine out on. And I wanted to know what you think about that.
Yeah. I think gossip is one of the hardest things in our communities. And I know there's a lot of people who like defend gossip because they're like, it's a like feminist way that like women and, marginalized groups have always, taken care of each other. It's really different for me to like tell a dear friend of yours that we share that like, I'd love help bringing you soup, because there's like, that's a different kind of like wonderful caretaking gossip where we then this thing where I just feel like in most of our communities, there's like no confidentiality skill. And the way it bites us in the ass is a couple of things. One is like, we're in a group together and I'm irritated by the way someone facilitated, and I vent that to you. And like, ideally you're like, oh, totally right on. I get it. Yeah. I can tell they're trying their best. Like you're also reminding me to have some compassion, but you're also listening to me. But then if you go and tell somebody else who tells them that I said they facilitated badly, like now the group is likely to like really start to get weird, right? As soon as you get those kind of circuits. So it's like, let it end with me. Let people vent to me. Let people vent to me about their lives and their feelings and let me not say it to anyone else. And if it's something that I think needs to come back to that person, I can say, hey, have you thought about telling them? I bet they'd love to know a way they can facilitate more effectively. Like even just starting with the assumption that it's a confidential situation and only sharing it after getting permission. And I think that's really true. Like if this happens a lot, like in communities, people are practicing non-monogamy. Like when you tell me that you saw her and then whatever, and then I tell these other people, it's like, no one really wants to find this stuff out sideways. Like I'd rather, if I'm going to get information about what my date's up to, I'd rather find it out because I actually asked for it and wanted it and we agreed, like it just this kind of like, yeah, I think we should all like look at what are our motivations when we're repeating a story. Just like, what am I trying to do right now? Am I trying to look cool and in the know? Am I trying to get people on a side? Like these are often not community building motivations, and we're not bad for having them, but we don't have to act on them. But I really I would encourage everyone to ask themselves like, where am I with confidentiality, and what would it take for me to increase my capacity to be someone people could talk to confidentially without even asking me for it to be confidential. But let me assume that until they say otherwise, or until I ask them, hey, can I go tell this other friend about your sex life or you're venting about somebody at the meeting?
Yeah. I think that's so wise. Dean, you have so many advice questions, and I will talk about your podcast at the top of the show, but can you tell us a little bit about this episode that we're reposting that includes Morgan Bassichis and Tourmaline?
Yeah, this was a really cute conversation because it's really one of my favorite episodes because the three of us have been doing organizing together. We all met doing like trans abolitionist organizing, maybe in like the very early 2000s, and have done so many different projects together over the years, and also been with each other through so many different relationships ups and downs, job ups and downs, political dramas. And so it's just so special to talk to these two people who've influenced me so much and whose fingerprints are all over this book, about the ideas in the book and like the kinds of things that we each are experiencing. It's, a lot of stuff I really love about both of them. Like they're both really interested in understanding that perfectionism is toxic in our lives towards each other and ourselves. And so that comes out a lot in the episode, and like what it means to feel broken, what it means to acknowledge how difficult it is to relate with others and like go a little easier on ourselves. Yeah, it's just the whole episode is just like so dense with their brilliance, and I really enjoyed it. It felt like I mean, we're in touch all the time, but it felt like a reunion in a certain kind of way to like be together all at once in a call. It was really sweet.
Dean, are you ready for some advice questions?
I am. Your listeners ask the best questions.
Okay, I want to ask you, I have 2 questions that are separate that are both about breakups. I'm going to read them both and let's just riff. Dear Dean and Nicole, I recently broke up with my girlfriend of 5 years. We have been together since I was 19 to now 24. Our lives are so entwined with friends, work, and a co-parented cat. Despite breaking up in February, we have been in contact. Their lease recently ended and they needed more time to look for a new place, so they asked to stay with me a couple months and I said okay. Yeah, it's messy. How do I untangle this? It feels harsh to go no contact when we have been each other's main support for so much time, and I obviously still care for them even though I don't think we work romantically. We tried to stay friends, but it's been difficult to parse through my emotions. They had cheated on me a few years ago and I don't think I ever got over that either. Just a lot going on. Let me know any thoughts and the best way to move forward. Thanks. Put a pin in that one. It has its own questions within it. Next breakup question. Dear Dean and Nicole, my last partner broke up with me about a month ago and wants to meet up to celebrate our relationship before an extended period of no contact. While perhaps a good idea in theory, I have conflicting feelings about going through with this. If I do, what suggestions do you have in maintaining my presence and intentions? Which includes wanting some form of connection with them eventually, before, during, and after this hypothetical celebration. Signed, Broken Up in Boise. Okay. So we have 2 questions. So we want to know about breakups, when to go no contact. Is that compassionate or not? How to celebrate the relationship or honor it. And then what else did you hear in the first one? There was a little bit of like messy boundaries and old resentments, which I think feed into the other questions.
Yeah. I mean, whenever anyone asks these questions, I want to ask them like 100 questions that would tell me more about the actual dynamics in the relationship and which part of the dynamics they were in. But I think that in general, a lot of people I know in our shared communities do not take enough time and space after relationships to let the dynamics change. So one way to know, I think, whether you need more is like, does it still feel the same? Am I still running stories in my head like, oh, Nicole is always late. Nicole doesn't take care of herself. Like, am I saying things to myself that I was saying during the relationship? Am I having reactions that feel familiar? That means probably I haven't actually gotten you into the friend zone yet, right? Like in the friend zone, I probably want what's good for you more than I do when you're my date, instead of feeling like threatened by your autonomy, activities, etc. I probably feel less irritated by you when you're my friend. So like, just the sensations can tell us, like, are we stuck in the old dynamic and we're just not officially dates anymore, but we're still in it? And if so, I think periods of no contact makes sense. I mean, I've had relationships where that took years to be like, I want to hang out with this person and have fun again. And I wouldn't have been able to predict when that would be. And I've had relationships where it didn't take as long. But I feel like when I hear the first story about like, my lease broke and I didn't have anywhere to live, I'm like, everybody in this story, I think, needs to cultivate some more deeper friendships. What we need is to not have to go to our ex for these things, right? Ideally, and obviously I know that's a tall order, but what I want from most people I know is to have bigger, deeper support systems where you have more people to choose from for support. And then it's more likely also that relationship dynamic will change. If I'm still relying on you for certain things because I don't have more of a support system, it's unlikely that it'll change. Or unlikely that it'll become something that feels like we're both volunteering for it, instead of like there's kind of an obligation in the relationship that might be leading us back to dynamics we had going where we felt out of choice. I think most people, when they're breaking apart, something's going on in the relationship that feels out of choice. Like, I don't like this. I don't like how it is. I can't get it how I want it to be. And to get back to like choosing you as a friend, I need to maybe like have a bigger support system.
I would say with the person whose ex wants to meet up to celebrate their relationship, I don't think you need to do that, but I think it's really sweet. Like, I think it's like worth acknowledging that it's a really sweet impulse and that you do actually really value the relationship, but that it just doesn't feel, the celebration, the opening up of it's like weird post-autopsy kind of like, woohoo! Like, it's just, I think it's okay to be like, I love that. And like, here's some of our favorite photos, but I just need some time. That's okay. And the no contact doesn't have to be like, you're blocked. Don't talk to me. The no contact can be like, I just need some time. And I'm like looking forward to coming back together. I want to like try and change the dynamics so you can be in my life in a longer way. And I just need a minute. And it doesn't mean I'm mad at you. And it doesn't mean I hate you and I'm stewing in resentment. It just means just need a little time so this can change and we can go to the next phase of what this is meant to be.
It feels to me like a lot of people have the multiple phases of their breakups. There's like, oh my God, we're acknowledging that we're broken up. For some people, that might mean changing your living situation or dealing with the cat or whatever. And then there's often a lot of people have another phase where they find out a person's dating someone else or dating them seriously. There's something the other person does gives them another reality check about being broken up. I just want to normalize that. Just like, it's like breaking up. It's like there's an internal set of grief processes. It's for sometimes also like liberation processes. Like, wow, I can do things I didn't get to do before or whatever. And it just like, it takes a while. And just like, it's okay that it needs space. And people often want the other person to agree to it. Like, and it's like, you know what? They might not. That's why it's a boundary. It might just be like, you're like, hey, I really want to not talk for 3 months or 4 months or something like that. Another way to know you need to do this is like, are you texting each other mean things? Are you doing weird jealousy behavior? Like, if you're doing the yucky stuff of people who need to break up, but you've already broken up, you haven't broken up enough. It's like, get out of the dynamic. If you're ever going to be able to be friends, it's because you're going to stop treating each other like people who are breaking up.
It really, it is just, it feels opposite. You're like, but this person's valuable in my life and I'm showing that by clinging. And it's actually the opposite. I know it doesn't feel like that, but it's just like, you have to, take your claws out of them, let them go so you guys can actually have a sustainable, loving, different form of this relationship.
And there can be a feeling of threat because like, it can be like, you're going to like, I have to do these things with you or else you're going to think I'm not trying to be your friend. Like there can be a lot of manipulation, unconscious, not intentional manipulation. Or like, you broke up with me, so the least you could do is, it just gets, it's like everybody just has to be like, wow, we're really losing this. It's awful. We're losing this.
Like we're actually going to damage our future friendship and our relationship if we stay in each other's lives closely in this dynamic.
I think almost all of the harmful things people do to each other during a breakup happen after they've officially broken up. That's when now I go trash talk you in the community. That's when I violate some boundary and then, people take sides in our friend group. Like most of it happens once we're really freaking out, right? Like during the prior time, we're going to be having a hard time, but we're trying to make it work. So we're probably like trying our best to see each other the best way possible. And then once the like Band-Aid is ripped off and I'm like, oh wow, Nicole's really leaving me or we're really breaking up. Then I'm like, Nicole is a monster, like that's what I see happen. So that whenever we have really strong feelings, especially that somebody else is bad, that's the time to watch our behavior. That's when you're about to act unethically. When you feel the most victimized, when you feel the most like someone else is terrible, that's when you got to say to your friends, should I press send on this email or not? Should I burn this person's belongings or whatever bad idea I've got, The
answer is no. The answer is restraint of pen and tongue. If it's hysterical, it's historical. If you're feeling really amped, if you're feeling at a 10 or 11 and you feel that animal kind of like thing coursing through you of like, do it. That's exactly the time to pause. And especially if you're feeling like a victim, especially if you're like, I'm going to show them, I'm going to stand up for myself for the first time in my life. Like that's pause. Share that with a series of friends or trusted professionals and
or not into drama
or send those things. Yeah. Or just, I wouldn't send those things until I feel like calm about it. If my heart's not racing and I've really slept on it, there's nothing wrong with pausing. There's nothing wrong with waiting. I think learning to pause changed my life. And it's usually when I don't pause and I heed that kind of like, do it, then I really regret it. And it's much harder to unwind that than it is to just give it 24 hours or 48 hours or a week. And then sending it when I actually have, a calm mind.
Yeah.
Dean, you ready for more?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. There's so many questions. All right. Dear Dean and Nicole. Okay, I'm not sure how to phrase this question exactly. I'm in a 5-year-long committed relationship with a woman who is also married and has 2 children. She's the love of my life. But lately I feel so jealous of all the state and capitalist validated relationship markers that she shares with her husband. House, marriage, family. I want us to have family and commitment too, but struggle to more expansively envision what that can look like. I guess my question is, how can I let go of those things and get more expansively? Get more expansive? Happy to provide more details if helpful. No. From Wanting in Wichita.
I mean, my instinct on this is always to just really move out of the zone of fantasy and into the zone of reality. What is here? What do you have now that you like? That's what's here. That's what's an option here. This person has got things she does with other people, a range of things she does with other people. I think it's like, and if you want something in particular, like you wish you had a live-in partner, you can also pursue that. It doesn't have to come from this person, so just really evaluating like what is being offered to me by the person I'm connecting with. What are their limits and how can I enjoy what's there instead of getting caught in the like, what if I had this other thing? And it's true. I mean, the cultural pressures are intense about what's valued, but I mean, we all know like all those things are like so romance killing and like dreary. Like, I mean, just, it's like, I think actually that's the security drive we were talking about earlier. Sometimes it makes us want those things that stand for security in our culture, but those things are not what they say they are. And so if you want them, go get them with somebody who's available to you to have them. But also like, I think it's so good the more we can be in realism about what those things are and what they feel like. And while we're completely wildly in love with people, just like enjoy whatever they are actually available for. I think sometimes we make a problem out of whatever people are not available for, because actually the problem is just like, it's so intense and vulnerable to be in love with people and to be connected. And so we will find something that explains the like deep insecurity that such connections bring out. Like where we can always find something to criticize our partner about, or to be like, they're not doing this or they're not available for that. I think our aim in life is to feel the abundance of whatever is actually here between me and this person. So if this person and I just only meet once a month after 10 p.m. for sex, can I enjoy that for what it is? And if I want something else that happens at 10 a.m., can I go find somebody to do something at 10 a.m. with? Like that's, for me, like instead of belaboring and getting angry with and creating conflict or whatever, or being forlorn and like I'm the victim or I'm so sad. And, like it's like, nothing wrong with all those feelings, but just like, how can I have acceptance and gratitude for what connection is available wherever I'm getting that? Or if I feel like I'm being taken advantage of in some way, then get out of it. Yes. You know what I mean? That I think a lot of times we make up that sense because of a underlying, like, Buddhists would say everything is unsatisfactory. That is just the nature of how it feels to be alive. But it might not be because of something somebody else is or isn't doing with us.
I agree with you. I don't have more to say on that. I mean, I'm like, can you kidnap one of her children and play house? She comes over to your house, you're like, look who's here. You have the kid being like, Mom, what's going on?
Get a real doll. Get a real doll.
Can you just get a dog who you put in clothes? I promise it's going to be so much more chill for you to leave the house for more than 4 hours if no one's calling CPS. Like, get a dog, put it in clothes.
Have kids with your friends, not with your lovers, is one of my recommendations.
Have kids with whoever.
Yeah. It's just do it in the most peaceful relationships you have. Yeah.
Dear Dean and Nicole, this one was really long and I cut it off, but I'm going to summarize the end for you. Should I warn someone about their obsessive ex, even though we've never met? I'm close with someone whose behavior towards their ex has become obsessive, and I'm trying to figure out whether I should reach out to that ex, even though we've never met, to share what I know. We have mutual friends, but don't know each other directly. They dated for a little under a year, broke up about a year ago. Since then, my friend hasn't been able to let go. When the ex does occasionally call, especially when things aren't going well in her current relationship, and has said things like, if it weren't for her, maybe we'd try again, it's become very clear to me that my friend is reading far too much into those moments and is spiraling into increasingly extreme behavior. The most recent development is that they're relocating to the small town where the ex lives. They already have a steady job in another city, but they applied to nearly every college in the ex's region to find a plausible reason to move. They ended up getting a temporary job at a college nearby, just enough to justify living there, even though they'll still be commuting several hours each week from their original job. They also looked into getting a house across the street from their ex. They also have threatened to this friend to kill the new partner of the ex. So my short response via Instagram was like, I'll ask Dean, but my answer is, yeah, maybe give that person a heads up. That was my thought. But what do you think, Dean?
If I was talking to this person, I would be like, well, what have you talked to your friend about? Your friend is your actual responsibility. Our friends are our people. And they might need to hear something a lot of times in a lot of different kinds of loving ways and strong ways. This person is perfectly situated to support someone who's going through an obsession that sounds like it's starting to be, over the top. So I would say, and then it's like, you could also be like, oh no, I need to recruit another of our friends. Like really, if we're worried about this person becoming a harm doer, if it gets to a point where you really think this person is likely to do actual harm, like was this threat very verifiable? I think this person knows more than we do. But my instinct is like, take care of this person who is your friend, who is letting you in on this stuff. Sometimes people get very isolated before they do harm. This person. And I would not violate this person's trust if you don't have to, because then you might lose your ability to be part of influencing them to get support to not do this stuff. So that's my instinct, is like, we always want to go towards the harm doer or potential harm doer. If there's somebody that we know, that's like really important. They trust us. They know we love them. Help them not do this stuff. And I would wait to talk about them to a third party until you think it's actually a matter of like keeping that person safe. Because it's just, I could see it being a thing where then that person is scared or talks to the obsessed person, and then they feel alienated from their friend. Now they're the victim and they're feeling betrayed, and they're even more riled up and more alone. So I think, number one, when our friends are doing weird stuff, we need to help them stop. We are key people for that.
That's really nice, balanced advice. Mm-hmm. I mean, they said something in there about how when people say something that's contrary to this person's belief, the person cuts them off. And so I think this person's kind of staying close to them because they're walking that sort of knife's edge of like, I want to be close to support, but...
That is so hard when we have a friend who it's like, it can feel like a threat. Like if we are honest about what's happening, that they'll leave.
It sounds like
we want to build influence them anymore.
The person's it's a little bit of stalking. It's a little bit of dating people who they think this person may have dated, finding people on dating sites who they think their ex may have dated. It's like contacting the landlord across the street from them.
Does the person who's being stalked know anything about it?
I don't know. Okay. Well, I think that we've answered it to the best of our ability, considering.
Yeah, it's hard without talking about it, yeah.
But I think this is good. Advice you've given. Okay.
People are going through it, man.
There's two about young people being attracted to old people. And when I say old people, when I say old, I mean people that are around our age. Younger people being, okay. I'm going to read.
Someone told me it's astrological, that there's an astrological thing happening causing young people to be interested in old people right now. Isn't that weird?
That is weird. It's a classic May-December planet configuration.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to read both of these, even though they're both separate people. Dear Dean and Nicole, I'm 25 and I'm plagued by being primarily attracted to people 20 years older than me. I feel like it's partly because I've been out for over a decade and I'm from the South, so I feel like I've lived 40 queer years. Partly also because of chronic illness, and that impacts my sense of timeline/life. That being said, cool, grounded, ethical 45-year-olds generally don't want to date a 25-year-old. What to do? Second question, different person. Dear Dean and Nicole, I have a huge crush on a comics-loving friend. Ooh. She's probably known she is queer since before I was born. She's 50, I'm 39, but she's been married to a man for over 20 years. Her friendship has been one of the most precious things in my life this past year, but I'm also quite clear with myself that I want to hold her hand and kiss her. At the same time, I want to support the beautiful things she's built through the context of her marriage, things that mean a lot to me and are part of why I'm drawn to her. I don't want to put our connection at odds with that whole world. What do I do? Signed, questioning in Quebec. Okay, so we have one person who wants to find a way to convince 45-year-olds that they're mature. And then there's another person who wants to slide into a marriage.
I mean, I think that with the person who wants to date people who are older, I mean, in some ways, it's like any dating situation where you have a taste or a preference that's hard to find. And all of us have things like that we would like that are like a little rarer to find. So one thing is just, again, like, can I find out what's here? Can I open my taste a little bit? Can I figure out if I can't find it, can I open up to possible other connections that aren't quite the thing I'm looking for? That's a possibility. Another thing is, I think if it's about, I think maybe meeting people in person might be really useful for this person because then people can like find out what they're like instead of just judging them on their age. And I do think that people often find out that generalizations they have about young people are not true when they engage with people. This person's self-assessment is that they have something to offer, that some shared life experience with people in their 40s. So those are my thoughts there is, maybe not getting rigid about it and seeing if there are people who are in their 30s who may like them or something, or 20s, because there might be also other like really interesting people who have similar life experiences that are their age. We don't know. And then or somebody else might say they should go to the apps because then it's higher volume. I don't know. These are mysterious questions. But the other person, I think this is a really juicy one because on the one hand, sometimes you're like, oh, this person's like squarely unavailable to me. They're in a monogamous marriage. They are not looking for dates. I'm their friend. And then in that case, I have a little practice in my book called 7 Steps for De-Escalating a Crush. It's like if this crush is kind of driving me up a wall and I know it's not a thing and it's going to make me act weird to my friend and maybe like she's not going to like that. Okay. I need to bring down my crush, do the practice to see if I can move out of, if I'm thinking about this more than I want to and it's making me unhappy. On the other hand, it could be totally, your friendship could totally live through you being like, hey, I just want to find out, is there any possibility here? And then the person can be, and like, no problem if there's not. And the person could be like, that's not a thing for me, but thank you. And I really enjoy our friendship. Like, I think that the person would have to assess whether that would feel like a respectful thing to do, feel like they've gotten information that would in any way like upset this person that they have a crush on, or whether it would be fine. It sounds like they really don't want to lose the friendship, and I want that for them to keep the friendship. So I think like they might have to do an assessment of like whether there's room to ask that question, and whether this person's marriage has room for a potential mutual crush.
I found when people, we have one more question, so I have to say this fast, but I found when people who I've been friends with had a crush on me, unless they acted aggro and hostile about the answer they got, it hasn't detracted from our friendship. I just felt like they had an appreciation for me that then like went into a different neighborhood. Mm-hmm. But it was okay because it could just go back into the neighborhood that I was comfortable with.
Yes, I think the key is not making somebody responsible for your feelings. Like not having to process it with them over and over again. It's like your crush is yours. No one made you have that crush. It's not, I think bringing it up once is, and if it finds out it's not a thing, then really being like, I'm going to take care of this on my own.
It's fine. It's like, I think you're so funny and cool. And, I really think you're so funny and cool. It's like, thank you so much. Let's keep it dead at a 5. Okay. Question for Nicole and Dean. I know I have sore spots around financial insecurity stemming from childhood experiences of lack and abuse. I have a pattern of over-functioning when selecting partners who struggle to function or maintain relative stability. I'm currently in the process of ending a relationship with my primary partner, who is also my sir, in a power exchange dynamic. In that relationship, I have been really repeating codependent cycles of trying to fix my partner's problems, control their distress, and compensate or facilitate outcomes of protracted crises, especially around their struggle to keep jobs, housing, and stability. This is also a role I played as a parentified child in my family system. Woof. How do I reconcile my values, like materialist class analysis, disability justice, anarchist mutual aid, with my needs for stability and financial security in relationships? From Wandering in Wisconsin.
The Midwest loves these questions.
The Midwest loves these questions. Okay, this is a speed round of advice for actually a very deep question. What do you think?
This question is so deep. Well, I mean, I think there's a really common pattern. I wonder if other people have seen it, of people who were parentified as children, want to find a dominant partner and want to have experiences of submission because they, like it scratches an emotional itch of being like wanted and loved and held and contained in a way that maybe didn't happen in the chaotic upbringing where they had to be parentified. But then still, for the dominant person they're choosing has really high needs for support around things like logistics or stuff that the person's talking about. So that's just like a really interesting, I'm just like, wow, I've heard a lot of stories like that. Makes a lot of sense. To me, I think that, okay, I also have spent a lot of my life using my politics to justify not having good boundaries. That's like a really easy thing to do. And for me, the way that looked a lot of my life was like, everybody else should have what they need before I do. So like, if anybody is suffering anywhere on earth, I should give them everything I have to the point where I can't pay my rent. You know what I mean? So like, it's really complicated, right? Because I do have these really strong values of immediately sharing everything that we have. And I think the only way through this, since there is no ethical way to live in capitalism, there's no way where we're not like caught up in these systems and where us having things means other people don't. I mean, it's just really intense, is to do the emotional work on what does it feel like right now when I'm choosing to share or to offer somebody labor around their logistics or to do kind of like social worky type stuff for my friend or date. Like, where is this coming from? Is it like, am I motivated by feeling like this will make you love me, or I'm only worthy if I do this, or I need to become indispensable to you? And am I like, for me, doing lots of different mutual aid work has given me a chance to experiment with the different feelings in different relationships. Like when I'm doing this with this person, how am I feeling in this person, and so that I could get to be like, what's it like when I'm doing it in a way that feels more choosing and more of that kind of liberation where I'm aware of myself, and what's it like where I'm like repeating a story inside about how I don't deserve anything, or I'm only useful, only worthwhile to love if I'm useful, or whatever the old habits have been. So I think it's just like it's a sensation exploration about what's motivating the sharing work or the caring work.
Dean, thank you so much. I know you have a hard out, and I want to respect your time.
I have to go to couples therapy.
I wish I could. Can I come too?
I wish you could. You fit right in.
I'm happy to come in and just speak to whatever's happening, or just sit as a fly in the wall and be like, I support you both.
Totally.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. I can't wait for listeners to listen to Love in a Fucked Up World, and I would like for them to subscribe wherever they are listening to their podcasts. And that's it, Dean. Thank you so much for returning. Please come back.
Thank you for being the person who told me to make a podcast. Thank you for being the reason for my podcast.
I feel so happy to have enabled your podcasting ambitions that you didn't even know were there.
Thank you for inventing them and letting me feel them.
Bye.
Bye.
Sagittarian Matters is hosted and produced by me, Nicole J. Georges, with help from Ponyo Georges. Our executive producer is Chris Sutton, and our editor is Shauna Polly. Carolyn Pennypacker Riggs composed and performed our theme music. Please leave your 5-star reviews for us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and find us on Instagram @Sagittarian Matters. You can support our show on Patreon, patreon.com/Nicole J. Georges. Thank you for your support. See you next time.
Sagittarian Matters.